I need somebody to check my TikTok. Hey, y'all go. Go. So I can see if I have sound. Hey, go lay down. Go. Bella, stop. Go. Go. Stop. As soon as we get this going. All right, go. Kennel. Now. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Stop. All right, guys, we're getting all the streams up. If you're just joined us, just bear with us. Anybody want to give us a thumbs up that the microphone is good, that you guys can hear us loud and clear, no echoing, anything like that? Feel free to give us a thumbs up. Now, you guys see me on here a lot, but I want to let all of y'all know my wife right here is who makes it all happen. She puts all of the videos together, all the editing, all the streaming services, all of it. I would be lost without her. I mean, I think got some TikTok livers in there and everything else. I was probably waiting for the YouTube to come live. We're all waiting on you. You can edit this part out, right? Nice. Voice. Going live. And it is official. Perfect. Nah. No, let's just hope that they can give us a countdown or something. Jeez. These people. These people. No, I can't. If you want to join in and tell me if it, I mean, it looks good. I think it looks good. I'm on YouTube. What are you trying to do to us here? We got a schedule to keep. This reminds me of the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. just no, just buffering. Yeah, back to buffering. What a disappointment! What a letdown. I'm glad you put it that way, but both. Oh no, mainly the streaming. I think everybody had a good idea how that was going to land and play out. I just had a
in the...
I had a feeling that most likely it was a staged event to draw millions and millions and millions of dollars from the public, like most things. Sorry, just some technical difficulties. As soon as we get live on YouTube, we will start the broadcast. What kind of Wi-Fi signal do you have? Full, of course. It's just not going to want to let you do it. Well, let's just, I mean, give it this last try, but if you can't get it to go, then what we'll do is we'll just continue forward with going live, and then we'll just upload it like we did last time.
I'm just gonna fix it out.
So I'll just start there, you see.
There's you. There's you.
Don't worry, guys. As usual, somebody somewhere trying to silence somebody when they talk about something controversial. I'm just saying, you know, TikTok tries to violate me a lot. If you guys just joined us, I appreciate you guys being patient with us. We're just trying to get live on YouTube on the podcast, and then we'll be diving right in. Once again, we're having technical difficulties with YouTube. Shocker, I know. But in the meantime, if you guys got any questions, about last night's episode, anything like that, man, feel free to drop a comment and I'll do my best to get to it. Here it is. Big money, big money, big money, big money. Live me up. I'm literally.
Here we go.
There it is. Wow.
Yay.
All right. Well, there it is. Everybody give Caitlin a round of applause. And the crowd goes wild.
Okay.
Thank you, Caitlin, for getting all this set up.
Make sure all the sound sounds good and everything. And
Yes, please. Oh, well, see my mic, I guess, cut off. So there's that. There you go. Haha, backup mic. Or was it this thing that died? Oh, wow. All right, there we go. Everybody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I had a mic go down. Everybody comment a thumbs up if we're looking good. Everybody hear me good. I'm going to keep an eye on it. All right.
Good?
Yeah. Bruce, go let him. All right, guys. And...
You want the store closed?
Yes, please. And we are live. So, anybody here with us? Again, do you hear any echoing problems or sound problems, mic problems? There's, of course, mic's going dead on TikTok Live. Sorry, TikTok Live, I have to pull the mic. All right. And the mic's die, of course. TikTok live. If you guys have any problems hearing me, you guys just let me know. Of course, you'll be able to rewatch this whole episode on our YouTube, or you can click over to our YouTube now. The link is in the bio there. If you're having any kind of microphone problems or anything like that on TikTok, just click the link in the bio, join the live on YouTube, and you guys shouldn't have any microphone problems there. So let's start this off with, I want to revisit some of the things we were talking about last night with Charlie Kirk and Erna. And if some of you guys were here with me last night, I know that I said some pretty controversial things about my take on it. Again, that is just my take on it. I do believe that overall observation is like both sides deserve each other right now. We've done nothing but resolve ourselves of accountability, and we have often landed in situations just like Erna, the young Ukrainian woman who was stabbed to death on a train by a large black man that was 2-3 times her size. And then, of course, you have Charlie Kirk, who was shot at one of his own public speakings on a college university at that. And the real reality of all of it is it is absolutely just sad. It is depressing to think that one of the most socially civilized countries in the entire world has things like that go on. So it's just, for me, it's absolutely just absurd to think that somebody can't go out, have a big public speaking like Charlie Kirk, and speak his opinion, have people disagree with him without wanting to bring violence to a person. That is absolutely unbelievable. I don't even know where to go with that, what to say about that. It's just, you know, and then you have everybody cheering on the left. Like, you got people walking around college campuses asking, you know, college students how they feel about it, you know, and all of them say the same thing. They're just like, yeah, like, we're glad it happened. Like, it's like you're literally saying you're glad someone was assassinated and killed. And, you know, you're talking about someone who all they did was have a different opinion than yours. All they did was go around and give an open platform for diplomatic conversation. They weren't some warlord in West Africa going around and enslaving people and raping women and chopping kids' arms off and putting them in this child slave labor camp, or trafficking children, or anything like that. Nothing like that. Not some crazy dictator that used the military to go around and commit genocide and all of these things. Nothing like that. Just a guy who had a difference of an opinion. The main difference of opinion, I'm going to put him on for you right now, and it was he was pro-life, and he was pro-2A, and he was anti-LGBTQ. And that apparently is just cause to celebrate his murder. That, I mean, I don't even know how you can land in a civilization where people think it's okay to talk like that. But again, it goes back to zero accountability. Just like the people who are cheering for Charlie Kirk's murder are him and the accountability. Oh, well, you said these things and you have hate speech and all of this stuff and you deserve to be murdered, are the exact same people who don't want to be held accountable for cheering for the murder of people. I mean, the level of mental gymnastics and the Looney Tunes of the perspective of people today is, I mean, I'm trying to, it's like Doctor Who level. Like, you can't even make this up in a fantasy sci-fi film. It is absolutely unbelievable. And again, it just comes from the zero accountability. And so, anyways, I just want to start off by saying that I know I said some things about the way I see it whenever I was very blunt when I said that it was evil destroying evil. I know it was harsh when I said that, the Erna situation is an exact result of peak feminism. And I just want everybody to understand that just because I say that doesn't mean that I do not think that it's not a tragedy. Like, I do not think that that's how the world's supposed to be. I pray for Erna and her family. I pray for Charlie Kirk and his family. And I pray for our country that we do not, that we grow past this, that we progress past this. Not just like the violence and all of that, but literally all of it. The immatureness, the mental gymnastics, the absurdity of saying, oh good, he was held accountable for his hate speech, but yet I don't want to be held accountable for cheering for murder. It's like, because that's what you're doing. And it's like, I know that a great example is Charlie disagreed with a lot of things. He disagreed with feminism, the toxicity of feminism. He didn't call or cheer for any feminist leaders to be murdered or assassinated. He didn't call for violence on any of them. Same thing, a lot of anti-gun leaders out there, Black Lives Matter and those other ones, he didn't call for violence to come against them. And I think sometimes people misunderstand calling for justice and calling for violence, two majorly different things. But just, I'm trying to wrap my head around, because that's what everything's been today. Everything has been today is Charlie Kirk on the anniversary of one of the most tragic mass murders that's ever happened in the history of our country. A lot of people probably didn't realize today was 9/11 because they're still reeling from the emotions set off by what happened to Charlie Kirk. That we no longer live in a country where you are safe to speak your opinion, which is being controlled by terrorists. That's what you are. If you think that going around and committing acts of violence against those who have a different opinion than you do, and you cheer for that, that makes you a terrorist. That's the definition of terrorism, is using acts of violence to intimidate or to silence your political opposition or your ideological opposition. And cheering for the violence or the oppression of your ideological enemy is a really good way of saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm wrong. Because all that says is that you cannot prove your point in a diplomatic conversation. I'm trying to think, there was a famous saying, and it said, when you cut a man's tongue out, you're not calling him a liar. You're saying you fear what he has to say. And I think that a lot of people will agree that that's what happened to Charlie Kirk. That's how a lot of people feel. That's what was put into the world. That's what the right is supposed to believe. The left is supposed to believe that, hey, we're winning, we're going to fight, we're not going to take this. The right is supposed to believe that the left is massing violence against the right and that it's turning to chaos and there is no controlling it and you better be scared to be on the right. And unfortunately, a lot of it is a lot of political theater. The emotional responses from both sides have already been war-gamed, and that's exactly what they want. They want an emotional response to Charlie and Erna,
and they want the left to be cheering for it. They're riling up violence and tension on both sides for their benefit. So, I'm going to stop there, and before I just get all into the what I think, what goes on, all of that different stuff, I am nice. Audio is good. Thank you. Into what I think, what I believe, all of those different things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it right there, and I'm going to get back to what this episode is supposed to be about. Was Charlie Kirk assassinated? And when I say was he assassinated, I don't mean was he just murdered by some lone wolf, lunatic liberal who didn't like what he had to say. Was he assassinated by a larger, more powerful force? A government, intelligence agency, a big-time celebrity or billionaire or whatever, for political gain. And what is the science behind a 200-yard shot? So it's great to get into both at the same time. So was Charlie assassinated? Well, or was he just murdered by some lone wolf liberal psychopath? Well, I can tell you this much. As it stands right now, apparently that it is believed the shot was taken from about 200 yards away. I happen to be a very veteran marksman. I have been a marksman for most of my life. I have done marksman competitions. I have an extreme hobby into it. I've always enjoyed building marksman rifles. And I will say right now that there is not less than 1% of the population of the world could probably hit inside, let's say a 12-inch, that's a 1 foot, a 12-inch box at 200 yards. Less than 1% of the population. There is no way some liberal college-age lunatic just got a rifle, put a scope on it, sighted it in, then went to the range and dialed it in. It's two different things. And then took a what we would consider like a high adrenaline or a high stakes shot. A high stakes shot is when it's not comfortable, right? If you're sitting at a gun range and it's a nice mild temperature, it's not extremely hot, it's not extremely freezing cold, the weather is nice, it's not raining or hailing or high wind or whatever, you're under ideal conditions in a comfortable seat with a bench table, shooting at a target with very good light. Hey, stop. With very good light, then 200 yards is more realistic. But that's all right. So a high stake shot would be the opposite of that. That would be considered a casual 200-yard shot. High stake shot. If you've been in the woods for 3 days, it's freezing cold, you're getting rained on, you're dirty, you're hungry, you're tired, you haven't slept good, you've slept in a tent on the ground, it's extremely hot outside, it's snowing, you got high wind, all these different things can make for a high stakes shot. Well, probably about to commit murder on a roof in summer in front of thousands and thousands of people. You have high adrenaline. You're in a very uncomfortable sitting situation, and you have to get your heart very calm. Give me just a second. Okay, get me. Wait. And it's going to be a lot harder to hit a 200-yard shot under circumstances like that. And even in the best of circumstances, at the gun range, whatever, that would be considered, a casual shot. Most people couldn't make, less than 1% of the world population could probably hit a 12 to 16 inch circle at 200 yards. And that's if they were handed a rifle that everything, all the other work was done for them. Taking the shot is a hard part. The hardest part is before you ever take the shot. Most people just think a rifle shoots straight. It doesn't. Most people will probably, there's some people like, oh, well, I once shot a deer with my uncle. I never shoot. And he handed me a rifle and I shot a deer at 150 yards. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but he did all the hard work for you. He got the rifle. He bore-sighted the scope. Then he took the rifle to the gun range. And he spent days dialing it in. Which means you got to find the right ammo, the right grain for the right barrel twist, the right amount of power for the powder, for the length of inches of barrel you have. And then he dialed it in based on weather, humidity, temperature, windage. And he gave you a perfectly functional machine. And that's not an easy place to get. I have done that. Let's see. The amount of people that I've shot with most of my life, that I went to the gun range with, that are big gun fanatics, love guns, go hunting, all this different stuff, that we go to the gun range together and they asked me to sight in their rifle. I feel like there's maybe been, like it's got to be 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 friends and people that not just like, I'm not talking about people who don't shoot. I'm talking about gun advocates who shoot all the time and hunt, who have grown up around guns. And I go to the range with them. Say they got a new rifle, a new scope, whatever. And we go to the range, we go shoot together. They ask me to sight in their rifle and to show them how to do it. Sighting in for specific ammo, the specific weight of ammo, the grain of ammo, the amount of powder that's in ammo, the length of inches of barrel you have, the barrel twist you have. The list goes on and on and on for the different amount of factors that you have to account for when you are sighting in a rifle, especially when you're sighting in a rifle for something beyond 100 yards. If you've ever went to a range and shot at 100 yards, let's say you shot under inch groups. That means every bullet you fired, let's say you shot 3 shots, and every one of them were inside of a 1-inch circle, and you thought you were a good shot. You are not a good shot. And I promise you that if you took that out to 200 yards, your ability to keep that inside a 12-inch circle would be maybe 50%. And I guarantee you it wouldn't be the first shot you took. And that's if you know how to get to that point alone. Most people don't even know how to get to that point alone. Putting ammo, rifle, and scope together and just bore sighting it, and then going to the range and sighting it in on a range at long distance, like 200 plus, that's the equivalent of a hobby that, let's say, people who ride motorcycles. Most people who ride motorcycles, they might be able to change, let's say, the seat or the lights or like maybe a fender or something. Taking a rifle and bore sighting it and matching ammo with the barrel twist, the grain, all of that stuff, and sighting in at 200 yards would be the equivalent of someone who rides a motorcycle that knows how to pull their carburetor off their motorcycle and rebuild it, that gives them more horsepower, better throttle response, and better fuel efficiency. 99% of people who ride motorcycles do not know how to do that. That's the complexity level of making a 200-yard shot with a rifle. If you have ever shot that far and you shot decent with a rifle, I guarantee you someone did all of the legwork before you got to that point. They gave you a rifle that had already been sighted in for the ammunition you were using and went through all of that science before you got there and you were laying there on the bench with a rifle. And then that was a casual shot. You were at a gun range, most likely in ideal weather conditions, with ideal lighting, A lot of people don't understand that. Where the sun is matters. If the sun is behind you, outstanding. The sun is in front of you, your shot can get a lot more difficult. The sun is beside you, it can get a lot more difficult. The sun is behind you when you're hunting, well, that's bad, because you typically have a silhouette. You have to be conscious of that if you're hunting. So a lot of things can affect a shot like that. The sun is in front of you, well, that makes it a little bit more of what we would consider a high stakes shot. You've added a level of difficulty to a shot. Hunters are very proud of how they shoot. They do not want to cause the animal harm. They want to make a good, clean shot that gives that animal a peaceful death. They do not want to be cruel. They do not want to make a shot and wing that animal, cause them a bunch of pain, suffering, and fear, which can also ruin meat. So you take in account of all of these things when you're making a shot. How long have I been out here? How long has it been since I've had water? How cold am I? Do I have dexterity in my extremities anymore? How long has it been since I ate? Am I low on blood sugar? What is my heart rate? If your heart rate is too high, you cannot make a good shot. And you're talking about the discussion of did a lunatic liberal who hadn't even been alive long enough to be around guns long enough to even make a shot like that, did he have the capabilities of putting himself in a high stakes position in front of thousands and thousands of people, making we'll call it a 1% shot, because less than 1% of the entire world population could probably make a shot under those circumstances, and then have a completely clean escape? Well, if I was a betting man, I would say the odds are extremely, astronomically low that that's who took that shot. Was he assassinated? I mean, if all I have is the evidence to look at that I'm looking at, then I would say that there's a very good probability that for some reason a professional marksman, or at least somebody who had professional level marksman training or skills or experience, was the one who took that shot. They put together the rifle, they put together the ammo, and they knew what it was like to operate and take a shot, a long distance shot, in what would be considered very, very unfavorable conditions. Now, lighting was good, weather was good. I don't know about wind that day. I don't know about humidity. I don't know the level of stress that the shooter was under to hide, get on the roof, how fatigued he was, how long he had to make a shot. That matters, you know. If you're making a long distance shot and you have a split second to make the shot because, you know, maybe the deer walks out onto a clear pathway and then he's walking this way, he's going to walk right behind a tree or something like that, so you have a split second to make a shot. I mean, that makes it a lot harder. You got a deer in a field that's standing there all day. It's real easy to just sit there ranging, watching, wait for him to turn the right way, wait for him to do something that you know he's going to be there for a moment that gives you time to have really good shot placement. You know, all of those things are a big factor. So I don't know about all those things, but what I can say is that there were several layers of difficulty to that shot that I as a marksman, that I as a hunter look at and say that, man, somebody very skilled had to have taken that shot. I don't think that just some liberal lunatic had the capabilities to even put the rifle together to make a shot like that, let alone to have the skill sets to make a shot like that. So why? Who would benefit the most from assassinating someone like Charlie Kirk? Why would a powerful organization or government or intelligence agency or whoever, why would they want to assassinate someone like Charlie Kirk? When I ask the question why, I just ask, well, who has the benefit from it the most? Because right now, emotional, right-wing, MAGA, everybody, or even just moderate, left and right, are just appalled. They're just appalled. And all they can think about is the only people that benefit this is the left. The left is crazy. They're lunatics. They want to silence everybody with violence. And I'm not saying there's not some degree of truth to that for some of them. I do not believe that that represents the majority of the left. What a sad world we would live in if that represented the majority of the left. So who could benefit from something like murdering Charlie Kirk? Well, if I took Charlie Kirk and Erna's situation and I put them together. Now when I say Erna, I mean the young Ukrainian girl, the 23-year-old white blonde who was stabbed to death in Charlotte, North Carolina on a public train station. And when I put those two things together and I think about, well, who has to benefit from this the most? And the only thing I can come up with, because I don't think that Black Lives Matter benefited from it, I don't think the left benefited from it. The only thing I can come up with of the people who benefited is most likely the people who want to use military force to patrol the streets of America, who want you to believe that crime is so rampant, that violence is so bad and so dangerous, and people are killing people around every corner, and now they're coming after MAGA people, white people, young white women. Well, that's a good way to get people to start begging for the militarization of law enforcement on the streets of American cities that they're already doing. You see what MAGA's done in DC? They're moving to Chicago. They're getting a lot of pushback about that. A lot of people are up in arms about that. That is unconstitutional. That is illegal. The Constitution very clearly states that a military force is not allowed to operate domestically. It's not allowed to enforce laws. It's not allowed to go after criminals. It's not allowed to be used against American citizens. But that's what's being done. That was done in DC. They're preparing and doing that now in Chicago. ICE is already doing that all around the country. I don't care what anybody says. I'm probably one of the biggest pro-anti-immigration there is. Not that I just hate immigrants or anything like that. It's no, I just want a balanced economy. That's it. I want there to be a process to come to this country, just like a process is to go to any other country, that no, you're not allowed to come here and basically ransack the balance of an economy, the balance of a workforce, the balance of a dollar. I want there to be checks and balances. I don't want to live in anarchy. An open border is anarchy. And a lot of people sit here and they actually think that immigration is about being nice and multiculturalism. And it's not. The Chinese paid Democrats and celebrities to make you believe that immigration is about helping people. It's not. It was to destabilize your country. They wanted your borders open so that they could send in tons of people and hide weapons and terrorists and other militants from foreign militaries to come through the border and hide in your country and post up. They wanted to run drugs, human trafficking, weapons, and everything else across your borders and back and forth. You look at the year of, let's say, 2024, all right, 2023, and how many people paid cartels to come across the Mexican-American border. At the average price that a coyote charges that works for the cartel to bring families safely across the Mexican-American border, they totaled the annual, I want to say that it had to have been close to what was it? It was in the tens of billions. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. As I looked this up, it was tens of billions of dollars. Now, some of you may not understand. I want to say it might have even been 100 billion. I think it was 400 and something billion. Anyways, some of y'all may not understand that big of a number, and that's okay. You're not supposed to. That is astronomical. But there is not enough poor families in all of Central and South America with all their money combined that could even equal hundreds of millions of dollars. And the amount of money paid to cartel was in the tens of billions of dollars. Where did the money come from? Well, it's not hard. Who has the biggest interest in destabilizing our border? Who has the greatest leverage over Mexico? China. Look it up. The biggest trade partners in crude oil, gold, a lot of things. You name it. China is the biggest trade partner with Mexico. And a lot of money was given to Mexico, to drug cartels, and to extreme leftists, celebrities and voices and everything else to destabilize the Mexican-American border because they wanted to run human trafficking, drugs, and weapons, and militants. And I'm not talking about militants like Mexican militant or drug cartel militant. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean actual intelligence agencies from China, Iran, Russia, you name it. Anybody out there that is an enemy of America, even some of our allies like Israel, were running militants and intelligence operatives across our border. That's why they wanted the border wide open. A Trojan horse, if you will. That's why I'm anti-immigration. That's why I'm anti-open borders. If it was up to me, the borders would be completely shut down until our government could figure out human trafficking. There is no amount of law and order you can put in place. In my heart, I'm not saying in reality or in practicality, in my heart, there is no amount of law and order you can put in place until human trafficking is stopped. Child sex trafficking is stopped. And I will die on that hill. That is one of the main reasons that I am anti-open border. It is one of the main reasons I'm willing to go further than what my own moral compass is to stop immigration, mass immigration. And it's because of the exploitation of children that come across back and forth to the border. That's anyways, I know I kind of digress and I go off on this whole thing is because I get so, there's so much to it that a lot of people just don't understand. It's like, yes, like everybody wants everybody in the entire world to come up and have a better life. Nobody just hates immigrants and poor immigrants that are struggling in their own countries and don't have a way of life and could make a better life if they were to come here or some other, developed first world country, whatever it is. Nobody wants to stop that person from doing that. What we want to stop is the destabilization of our own country. We don't want our own country to become that. We don't want what they're trying to escape be what happens here. So then there has to be checks and balances to come in the country. That's why most countries, every country, has checks and balances. You can't just go off into another country and walk freely into another country. That's just not how it works. Look it up. I digress a lot into immigration. I'm going to try to get back to understanding why somebody may have wanted to assassinate, why powerful people may have wanted to assassinate Charlie Kirk. And I don't think that it is unreasonable to consider the option that the people who want to use military force domestically and want people cheering for that, right? Because they're already doing it, but they're getting a lot of backlash for doing it. And they want you to start cheering for it. So they can say, oh, well, these people want it. I know a lot of you don't want it, but these people want it. So, you know, and there it goes. That's all the politics for you right there. All they need is half of you cheering for it. The left makes you believe half the people are cheering for it, and then they're never not. There's never the majority of left you go talk to that are pro all of these crazy, insane things that leftist celebrities and politicians do. But they make you believe half want it. And that's how they get away with it. Same thing with the militarization. It is very unpopular right now. Well, is after Irna, after Charlie Kirk, I'm willing to bet that it's about to get a lot more popular. And that's what we would call motive in the criminal justice world. That is just something that I'm not saying that's what's happened. I'm not saying that, you know, that is fact. That is just a hypothesis. That is me looking at people who have to benefit from it, people who have to lose from it. You know, a lot of people might easily go into the thought of like, well, it's clearly the left. Now the left can call for more gun control. And yeah, that's like a very small, that's a very, very high risk and a very, very small reward, comparatively to other acts of violence that gun control advocates have always coattailed. I think anybody in the gun community kind of understand that's like, man, you know, if I was going to call for gun control, I would probably coattail after a bunch of young children were murdered by a gun, maybe in a school or a church or something like that. That was going to have a lot more momentum. You would be able to snowball that a lot more and actually get people to start considering more. Shooting a public voice who was pro Second Amendment, do it, you know, in a sense of in the middle of public in front of thousands of people, very high risk situation of getting caught and blowing the whole up. To me, that was why I was like, well, it just doesn't seem like the most likely operation for a powerful person or intelligence community that was trying to push gun control. It seems like they're a lot smarter than that, and if they were truly trying to push gun control, that they would most likely use a much more effective operation, like the mass shootings we've seen in the past. which you also have to, consider. Like I've considered many times, who was the most to benefit from some of those mass shootings? And it's hard to say that gun manufacturers and ammo manufacturers weren't the biggest beneficiaries to some of those mass shootings. Not saying that there's any evidence other than that, and not saying that that's what I believe. I'm saying that I like to consider everything before I start siding with anybody. And I'm sitting here looking at the Ernest situation and then the Charlie situation that directly follows the Ernest situation. And it's just real easy to kind of see the buildup of like, well, if I was wanting to militarize law enforcement and put Marines on the street of American cities, well, let no good crises go to waste, because this is the perfect alignment of events, and I guarantee you people are going to be begging for it. People are going to be cheering it when Trump is like, we can't allow this to happen anymore. I'm sending troops to Charlotte to clean up the streets. Sending troops to Utah to clean up the streets. Well, Alabama universities, they got threatened today. They went on lockdown and canceled classes. Well, I'm sending troops to Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. And it's just, man, that's a really dark, slippery slope that I don't want to see America go down. And how law enforcement handle these things and what they're doing and everything else, that's a whole episode in itself that we will be having come up very soon. We're going to talk about, how law enforcement, why is crime so bad when law enforcement, courts, and federal law enforcement have been given unlimited power, virtually unlimited power, and no longer even abide by the Constitution in any way. And you have cops everywhere saying, oh, well, that's how it has to be to keep us safe. Well, where is anybody safe? Look at Erna, look at Charlie. Like, look at the Patriot Act. Like, the NSA has the ability to look inside your house and use your Xbox to paint 3D images of where you're walking around in your house. And you couldn't even figure out who shot a prominent public figure? With the Patriot Act and the NSA and them being able to tap into every computer, every phone, and everything else at will, without a warrant, without congressional approval, without anything, just at will. The Patriot Act and the NDAA allows them to do whatever they want. And they tell you, well, that's to keep you safe. Well, where the fuck are we safe? Charlie Kirk wasn't safe on a college university in front of thousands and thousands of supporters. And you can't even catch the guy who shot him. I thought that's why we had the Patriot Act. You should be able to catch that guy in 16 minutes. You still don't even know where to go. You maybe have a POI. Maybe. And then you have some antique musket that was found in the woods. Oh, this is the weapon in question. No, it's not. The weapon in question is probably already buried on the grassy knoll. I think someone took a 200-yard shot with a Mosin Nagant from World War I. There's all these measures, and there's all these beliefs. Cops always tell you, well, we need DUI, the Fourth Amendment doesn't exist because we need to have roadblocks and DUI to keep us safe from drunk drivers and drug runners and human trafficking. Well, I mean, where did it work? What city doesn't have rampant drugs, rampant human trafficking, rampant DUIs? Uber and Lyft did more to resolve DUIs than the decades of DUI checkpoints. All of that constitutionalist DUI checkpoints, where Fourth Amendment apparently no longer exists. It was like, well, we lost all the freedom and we got none of the safety from it. Thank God the free market could correct some of that. Uber and Lyft saved more lives, even though cops were allowed to jerk you out of your car. Oh, well, I smell alcohol. No, you don't. You're just saying that. Well, then I'll get a dog here. It's like, well, just search the car. I don't want to wait for all that. Just search the car. Cops are allowed almost unlimited power when they pull you over on the side of the road. Nobody's safer. Where have we been safer? As a matter of fact, it just keeps getting worse. How many street takeovers have been going on? How many people are getting shot at these street takeovers? How many people are pulling up to houses with fully automatic Glocks and robbing cars or breaking and entering, home invasion, murder? Well, I thought that's what we gave all the power for. That's why our cops have tanks and M4s and flashbangs and full kits, armored personnel carriers. Police aren't supposed to have that. That was supposed to be illegal by the Constitution, but police have that. And they needed that so that they could be safe, and they could keep us safe. What city are we safe in? Let me know where that worked. Well, now we've given the NSA. Look at what was his name? Snowden. And all the revelations about the NSA and what they were doing. And then you had the NDAA and everything that tied into that. That was supposed to prevent these very things, these very terrorism things. When terrorists decide to show up and shoot public, prominent political figures. Not in their home, not in private, not in the woods, not in passage somewhere. Nope. In the middle of a public press conference or tour, or whatever it was called, on the middle of a college university in front of thousands and thousands of people. And they still don't, they don't even have a suspect yet. They don't even have a weapon yet. I guess they say they do. They have a weapon of interest. Apparently some musket they found laying in the woods. And now they're showing us this picture online of some kid. It don't even look like he could hit water if he fell out of a boat, but I'm supposed to believe he made a shot at 200 yards that could take the wings off a gnat's ass. Well, I'm going to switch gears here. I've been talking about the Charlie Kirk thing mostly. I think we kind of got an understanding. Was he assassinated? I think the odds are saying that it was not some lone wolf, lunatic liberal. We went over the science of making a 200-yard shot, which kind of further compels you to believe that it would be pretty astronomical if it was some lone, young, liberal psychopath that made a shot like that even knows the science or would understand how to make a shot like that. So I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to move on into 9/11. Because this is supposed to be a conspiracy episode. We are talking the conspiracy of, was Charlie Kirk assassinated? Was Erna? Was that a random event? Or was it manufactured? But I want to talk about the conspiracy of 9/11. It is the date, a very tragic date once again. And there is a lot of what most people would call coincidences that happen around 9/11. I don't believe in coincidences. And I think not looking at this new information that we have 25 years later, 24 years later, is almost as stupid as the flight instructors at that flight school that the terrorists walked into a few months before they flew planes into the Twin Towers and said, "We don't need to know how to land." So apparently these guys, the suspected terrorists who hijacked the planes and flew them into the World Trade Center, these were a handful of middle-aged Muslims from the Middle East who like to party and visit strip clubs and snort cocaine. They carried out what would be considered the most complex terrorist attack on American soil, complex and coordinated terrorist attack on American soil. They successfully hijacked 4 planes, because they had the 2 into the trade centers, 1 into the Pentagon, and 1 into the ground. Apparently the passengers overpowered them and the plane ended up crashing into the ground. So they've hijacked 4 commercial airliners with box knives and scissors. I mean, you're talking about a plane that, I mean, there's usually like 200 to 300 people on a plane like this. These weren't small planes. And then they flew wildly off course for like 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours, without ever being intercepted by a military jet or military aircraft or anything like that. One of those planes hit what is considered the most protected building in the entire world, the Pentagon. And the other 2 hit 2 high-rises in downtown New York, the World Trade Centers. And this was all coordinated by some guy in the mountains of Pakistan and Afghanistan with a laptop and a satellite phone. And the gentleman who owned the Twin Towers, who was in that office every single day, decided not to come to work that day. He had just taken out a major insurance policy on those buildings. And then the part of the Pentagon, and this is verifiable information, you can look this up. And then the Pentagon, the part of the building that was destroyed by the plane that hit the Pentagon just so happened to be the very, not just room, but the part of the Pentagon where an investigation was taking place, because the day before, Donald Rumsfeld had announced that they could not account for $1.7 trillion in taxpayer money. And so they had opened an investigation in an entire wing of the Pentagon to try to find $1.7 trillion of American taxpayer money. And a plane hits that part of the Pentagon the very next day.